All right. Welcome to our team call, January 21st. And tonight I figured it'd be fun to have my husband, Peter, come talk about his experience owning a business and being an entrepreneur for the last 14 years, essentially. He's been his own business owner since college, really.
Mm-hmm.
And so we haven't really known any other life other than entrepreneurship. And I never thought I would be an entrepreneur. I never thought I wanted to be an entrepreneur until this guy believed in me and told me that I could do it. I was one of those people that did not know how to think outside the box. But watching him provide for us and create a really amazing life for us with building not only his own businesses, but they produce residual income, meaning we get paid when we're not working, has allowed us to have a really incredible life where, yeah, when we first got married, we were completely strapped for money and doing the Dave Ramsey method and all of that. And then
not saying any of that's bad.
No, I'm saying this is where we've been. And this last fall, we were able to basically take the month of October and go on like a really long, amazing road trip to Canada and a whole bunch of places. And we're still getting a paycheck, even though we're taking this time off. So it's pretty cool. So I thought he would share. Without further ado, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Thank you. Hey, Ashley. Hey, Emily. I see a bunch of other few friendly faces. I know your names, but I haven't seen a face. So thanks for letting me talk with y'all for a few minutes tonight. Quick disclaimer. I have way too much information. So I'm probably going to get through half of it. And then we may,
do a two-parter or something.
We may pull me in at a later date if there's interest, if the need's there. So thanks for all of you joining tonight. I did want to extend an invitation if any of you, either a spouse or a friend or a grown child or something wants to listen in on the call, more than welcome. Feel free to jump on. I see a couple of spouses already here, so that's awesome. I just real quick want to give a history in my business. So I actually really started as an entrepreneur back in 2004, working at Olive Garden, working as a server. And I know what it's like living literally paycheck to paycheck. That was night to night. So I'd go grab cash, buy groceries, etc. So I've literally started 15 years ago as an entrepreneur. That's what an entrepreneur is. But then I got an opportunity to go work for my brother back in 2006. My first paycheck for the whole entire month was $12.
Because
my next paycheck the next month was $120. The paycheck the following month was $500. The next month was over $1,000, and I've never looked back. Now, that was me strictly building residual income and starting from ground zero. I've done multiple businesses, and I've seen a lot of different businesses. I'm privileged to work with over 4,000 businesses in my business as clients. So I know about building a business and that type of thing. But yes, I did start from zero and worked my way up. I realized back in 2007, so in 2007, I was Agent of the Year with my company out of 800 people. And I did that the brute force route. I'm going to work harder, work longer hours. This is before we knew each other. So I'm going to work 100 hours a week. I'm going to work 120 hours a week. I'm going to keep pushing the envelope farther and farther. Well, after a while, that's going to burn out. And a business coach of mine back then likened it to running on a treadmill. First of all, you start off at maybe a 3 or 3.5, and you're having a nice leisurely jog. And before long, you realize I need to go farther and I need to go faster. So you up the incline and up the speed. Before long, you're at a 10 and a 10. And that pace just isn't sustainable. So working strategically versus the brute force approach, that would probably shave 5 or 6 years off of my story. That being our story now. But that being the case, that's tough. One other thing I want to just quick throw out there. If you all are taking notes, I'd encourage a pen, a piece of paper, and feel free to do that. And I will leave a few minutes at the end for answering questions. Quick side note, those of you getting ready to file your taxes, I thought I'd just throw out a little bit of info. So I'm not a CPA, but I filed my taxes for 14 years, and no, I haven't done it. I work with a good CPA. So I actually I have a separate LLC. My business income flows into the LLC, and then I take a paycheck out of that. Feel free to write a question down, and I'm happy to type out a whole lot more about that. But many self-employed folks that don't do that route, you're stuck paying self-employment taxes and a whole bunch of other stuff. And that's just unnecessary money that you're giving away. So that's a quick side note before we dive in. So I'm gonna cover a lot of info really fast. And first of all, I want to throw out a quick disclaimer. You're gonna think to yourself, yeah, I already know a lot of this stuff. And one of my business mentors, Darren Hardy, talks about the curse of knowledge. It's where you think you know it all, but you're not actually implementing everything that you think you know. We've all heard the saying, knowledge is power. I would actually challenge that saying, and it's more conduct is power. What you actually implement is power. So the questions that you want to start asking yourself, have I mastered this information? Would people that are close to me, like my friends, my family, spouse, would they say that I've mastered it? Would my results indicate I mastered this? Would my bank account indicate that I mastered this? So that's where, for me, my hang up is, I think, oh my gosh, so-and-so needs to be here. They need to hear this. That's usually a little tickler in my mind. Yeah, you know what? I need to listen up and I need to listen to this. So that's the curse of knowledge. Unfortunately, a lot of people on the entrepreneurial roller coaster, or just in business, or maybe as an employee, you go along and you think, yeah, I'm not succeeding in life. And as students, we've been conditioned to memorize a lot of data, read a lot of textbooks, learn a lot of things, and none of that's bad. But how much of that are we putting into practice in real life? And so a lot of times we get onto that trap of, well, I'll just go back to school and get another degree. Well, how many people do you see in today's day and age using that degree that they spent 4 or 6 or 8 years to go to college? Again, I'm not bashing education, but a lot of times people use that as a crutch, because here's a statistic for you. College graduates read on average 2 books in the rest of their lifetime. And so you need to challenge yourself when you're building a business, when you're getting on the entrepreneurial roller coaster. You don't want to just think, I know what I know, and then blindly proceed on. You want to continually educate yourself. So knowledge is power versus conduct is power. So look at your results. So I want to talk about, how do you sell more? And that's a question that I get a lot. How do I actually convince other people to be on my team, to make a decision? Now, sales is not a dirty word, but a lot of people will come up with an objection. I'm not a salesperson, and that's okay. You don't have to be a salesperson, because a lot of times people have a stigma associated with that. There's a funny placard up in my office of all the different roles that people think sales. My mom thinks I'm this. Society thinks I'm this. You know, what I actually do type thing. So I'd like to challenge your idea of, what do you think a salesperson does? For me, I strategically recommend a solution to someone, but before I get to the solution part, I need to understand what their needs are. And before I understand what their needs are, I figure out who I am and what business I provide. So I went to a summit last May, actually, and it was amazing. It talked about figure out who you are. And then just the band outside of that is your mission. Just outside of that is your vision. Just outside of that is your goals, your strategy, and then consistency, how to make that all happen. The little steps that you need to make on a daily basis. So you might think, I'm going to make $100,000 in residual income. Awesome. How are we going to do that? And reverse engineer all the way back to today, those little steps that you need to make. But all that starts with you in the center of that diagram, and then your mission. So if you're not on mission, it's very easy to be slinging product around. And I heard this saying, you attract who you are, you repel who you are not. And that's very critical, because your team is built up of people that are like you. Like it or not, they are. And so who you're attracting is actually who you are today. So what do people want on your team? What do people want when they join your business? First of all, here's 5 things that good people, good other entrepreneurs, that when you're looking to build your team, what they want. First of all, the number one reason, here's 5. The number one reason they're looking for a sense of belonging. That means the team they're with, the leader, the boss, the camaraderie that they get as a result of being on your team. They want a challenge. Super achievers want to be pushed. People, when they're growing a business, they actually look for that challenge. You rise or fall to that level of challenges put in front of you. Secondly, they want a great opportunity. They want something that they can build. And then they want growth. They want the opportunity to be somewhere later on in the future where they're not today. And lastly, it's money and compensation. So a real quick side note on why people cancel. I hear this objection all the time. Yeah, products are too expensive. I can't afford Shakeology. Different things like that. And I want to take a little walk on the wild side, because this is actually really critical. So why do people cancel? Why do people quit? Why do you hire an employee and then they leave? All those questions, it all boils down to that same metric: you, mission, vision, goals, etc. So a few reasons. Maybe you didn't get full buy-in from everyone. You didn't sell the real decision maker. Maybe there was a spouse or a friend who needed to be on that initial call who wasn't there. And so you put out a lot of information for people, but you didn't get full buy-in. Perhaps their best friend is going to influence them to cancel or go do something else. So whenever possible, have a team approach. We're working with a family. This is an idea that we want to get everybody on board with, not just one person in our house. I oftentimes, when I'm asking my employees, when I'm interviewing them, we have repeat meetings periodically. And the 2 questions that people ask, or they should be asking, are: number 1, what's the number 1 thing that's going to make you stay? And secondly, what's one thing that's going to make you leave? So a lot of times with your current team, when you're looking to attract those people, you want to consistently ask them, what's one thing that's going to make you stay this week or this month? And what's one thing that's going to make you leave? That brings another point: investing in your current team. A lot of times, back to that brute force approach, trying to build my business, I was all going for those shiny objects out in the woods. That really good-looking prospect, that really awesome business somewhere else that I was trying to sell or whatever in my business. Unfortunately, I wasn't investing in my current clients, in my current team. And that's actually the gold that's under your feet. My business mentor calls that the gold under your feet. So you want to interview your current clients, interview your current team members, and they're your gold. And then strategically expand to other prospects down the road. Brings me to a verse where there's no vision, the people perish. So that's where, again, starts with you and then goes to your mission, vision, goals, etc. So, for example, the mission of Beachbody is to end the trend of obesity. What's your mission? A lot of times we don't really fully understand who we are, and so our language doesn't portray that. And unfortunately, we're then just turning around and selling product. Now we're a salesperson. And that's unfortunately not what we want to be. So the product's too expensive? No, that's not the answer. More than likely, again, cost is number 5, way down on that list. More than likely, they didn't buy into your vision, your mission, who you are, the camaraderie, the team aspect. I remember 3 years ago, or was it 4 years ago, when the Carolina Panthers went to the Super Bowl, and they played the Denver Broncos and lost quite badly. But their mantra that whole year was keep pounding. And you'd see in their stadium a few minutes before the game, they would have a gigantic drum, and they would have different people in the audience all bang the drum. They would have different drums. Next thing you know, the whole entire stadium of 80,000 people is pounding the drum. Keep pounding. That's your mission. And your mission is something that's not just said once. It's not written down and then hid away somewhere. It's actually something that we keep reiterating. We keep talking about that Carolina Panthers mantra, keep pounding, because that's where we really want to go. So people believe in a product because you believe in a product. People believe in the team because you believe in your team. People believe the information, they see the vision because you see the vision. The pace of the team is the pace of the leader. And so if you don't really have a crystallize of where you're going, fortunately, your team's going to max out, or your pace is going to max out at where you are. And then it's just a surprise. It's just math that people believe the same level that you believe. So when somebody gives a cost objection, it's too expensive, that type of thing, that's again more facts. People make a decision to purchase based on emotion. And then they use facts to corroborate that decision they already made. Now, I get pushback all the time when I say that, but I'm going to say it again. People make a decision based on emotions, and then they interpret the facts to corroborate the emotion, the decision that they already came to emotionally. We do that all the time in life. Where do we eat? Where do we take our kids? Which school they go to? What, go on down the line. When it really comes down to it, you make decision based on emotion. And so that's where your current team, your current clients are 10 times more profitable and more valuable than the shiny prospect out there. My business class, I was just going back over this. 3% of the value of a client is that first initial interaction. And then the other 97% is the new referrals, the new business they bring you. So a lot of times when you're thinking about who do I bring on as a potential customer, a lot of times it needs to go back to who do I already know? Who's already on my team? Who's already with me? And I just need to re-engage them. Maybe they're a 5 or a 6 in intensity level, and we need to convert them to an 8 or a 9 to make them more excited about our vision and our mission and our goals and where we're going. So just imagine this. Your current team, your current clients, if they just simply expanded what they purchased by $20 every month. And if you had 20 clients that brought in $20 more in revenue, it'd be nice. That's $400 in volume points per month. Now that's $4,800 a year, which is awesome. You make 25% of that, again, easy math. There's some other compensation points and bonus points in there, but that's an extra $1,200 a year. But it doesn't stop there. That's just your pay. That means more loyal customers. When you're talking about the sales aspect, people buy once, but then they're going to make an additional purchase after the fact to corroborate the purchase they already made. We see that in Amazon all the time. Customers who bought this frequently also bought X. Well, that's just strategic marketing. So if your current team is all excited about Shakeology, chances are you're excited about Shakeology. But now, what about Energize? What about some of these other ideas? But it doesn't just stop there. So the more loyal your customers, the more buy-in they already have, the less cancellations you have. That's now trickle-down effect. Your team is more engaged. They'll tell their friends. That builds more volume. You get introductions. That's more referrals. And then that's the perfect scenario. You've got momentum building, which brings me to number 4. You have a team that's behind you that pushes you forward. Don't you think Trina, she has 160 plus diamond coaches, I think. Something like that. That's incredible momentum that's pushing her forward. So that day when she's doubting, that day when she's wondering what she wants to do for the rest of her life, you better believe she's got a gigantic team that's pushing her forward. We call that Big Mo. But at the start, it's really incredibly hard getting those first few sales, getting those first few referrals, getting those introductions, organically growing. But after a while, momentum builds up, and then you just get referrals, you get introductions, you get that free money, which is amazing. And I want to pivot a little bit here. Now, going back a little bit, that's a little bit about sales. People buy between the 5th and the 11th interaction. That's a statistic. So chances are, if you met somebody and they signed up one time, they might be easy to lose down the road. Maybe that's the flash in the pan client that's not your long-term client. Who knows? Maybe it was a match made in heaven. But statistically speaking, just math, people buy between interaction number 5 and interaction number 11. So for me, I want to strategically follow up with clients non-intrusively, but I want to continue to work and build a relationship, because that's the best way to bring people on. People buy you. They don't buy what you're selling. They buy you. So again, if someone was hard to get, they're hard to lose. The opposite is true too. My favorite approach is the come and see approach. This is my story. This is something that impacted me. Maybe for the newbies out there, if you don't have a story, well, tell her story, or one of your friends' stories. Like a good country song. They all have a good story. Okay, I haven't listened to country for a while, but you need to tell a story. So whatever your story is, people buy that. People buy your energy, the excitement, the conviction you have. That's the emotion behind it. The decision for why people make a decision is that underlying emotion. If you're excited about something, they're excited about it. If you believe in it, they believe in it. And then it's not about what you sell, because now we're on mission. We've got a vision. We've got goals. We've got some consistency to get that done. And now it's just simply, this is the way we need to make it happen. And it's a lot easier narrative versus trying to push product, which never works, short-term or long-term. I always ask questions, asking good questions. The best influencers in the world ask the best questions. And when you think you've asked all the questions, keep asking more questions. For me, it's like the analogy, I'm a big analogy guy. Sorry, Ashley. For me, it's starting a fire. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, you start a spark. You ask a question, you pique someone's interest, they get excited. Now, do we just simply run over here to the wood pile, grab the biggest armload of wood we can, and dump it on that spark? No, because that will kill it. But the opposite is true too. Maybe you got that spark, but you didn't follow up. Maybe that interaction number 5 or interaction number 11, well, you got to 3. You got the spark, but you didn't follow up. So it's starting a fire. We want to create a spark, get some interest, connect with people emotionally. What's their why? Chances are their why is going to be, if you know that your train is going somewhere, you're on mission with vision and goals, their why is going to come along your why. And you know, as well as they know, hey, we're going somewhere. We're doing something big. And then people come along your team, they join your tribe because of that. So you started the spark. You want to start with something small. That's asking questions. Keep asking questions. Now you're going to get maybe a bigger piece of wood. Maybe you're going to go out on a limb and challenge them with something. And maybe you've got clients that are current clients and it's just a little small ember burning. And a way you can encourage more business, more total direction and momentum is maybe they need to buy more. Maybe they need to be more engaged. And that's going to encourage them to be, instead of a 5 or a 6, a 7 or an 8 or a 9. For me, one thing is people connect with my energy. So right now I'm having a hard time keeping my energy because I'm sitting down. I want to stand up and walk around. That's how I sell. I want to stand up and walk around. My lungs are more open. The tone of my voice is better. People connect with my energy. If you're worried about those follow-up calls, get up, move around a little bit, and then get back and keep doing that. With me, again, I have a lot of follow-ups that I have to do on a daily basis. I have current clients who might need help, and I have prospects. I'm going to start with the easiest win first. So who's the one that I can, if I'm nervous right now and I don't know what to say, or I'm going to stumble all over my words, is there somebody that I can call that I know or follow up with, and I can get a big win? Because then that helps my momentum. It's not about doing the easiest thing first, but that then affects every interaction I have for the rest of the day. That's why in our business, we talk about never miss a Monday with your workout, because that starts the tone of your week. Well, the same thing is when you start your day, start off with the easiest win first, and then continue that. Smile. People on the other end of that appreciate that. They can connect with that. Even if they don't see what you are, they don't see your face, they can see the smile that you have. It's like Hitch, the movie 15 years ago or whatever. Great movie, by the way.
Yeah.
Communication is 60% your body language, 30% tone of voice, and then 10% the words you say. A lot of times we agonize over those words, but we don't have the body language or the tone of voice. That's where people really connect. So for me, whenever possible, I'll use nonverbal communication, like an email or a text message, to then set a meeting where I can have a face-to-face conversation with somebody, or a video call, or worst case scenario, a phone call, because they still hear that 30% plus the 10%. At least I'm better than 10. So it's statistically speaking, a lot more successful. I did want to overcome a few objections, talk a little bit about that. And I do want to take a quick pause and answer a couple of questions if anybody has them. And then I want to end with a couple of stories on my end. So can we pause real quick and anybody can jump in and ask questions?
I was going to ask a question.
Yes.
Okay, so you said people connect with your energy. So I was going to ask if you could share some tips to translate that to social media, since a lot of us are doing business behind a screen more so than face-to-face or on the phone. So
one of the biggest things I think is practice what you're preaching. So if you're trying to invite somebody, first of all, the pace of the teams, the pace of the leader. So are you getting in your good workouts? Are you doing what you're asking other people to do? So one of that is that inner conviction and that belief to go the direction we're going. You have to have that crystallized in your mind before we dive into the weeds. I hear a lot about social media, and so I want to speak from the we standpoint. We is a very subtle word. We and us. It might mean we. It might mean our team. It might mean me and you. So as much as possible, get the I conversation and throw it out of your verbiage. Team, there's that joke. There's no I in team, but it's the capital A. Really, team is a we standpoint. And so when you're talking to other people, when you're sending out the invites, it's to a team. It's to culture. Because again, people want that camaraderie. They want that vision. They want to know you're going somewhere. They want to know there's growth. All those things are more important than the compensation, or it's so expensive, or some of these other things, some of these other excuses, because that's facts. They already made up the decision to buy or not to buy, to continue on the team or not to continue on the team, based on all those other reasons. And then the facts about it's expensive, or I don't have time to work out, or some of these other things, they're interpreting those. A couple other quick tips about that. Again, start with your easy win first. If you have 30 follow-ups to do the 2 that are going to get you going, because it's about momentum. You don't want to get mired in the weeds. I also like to have this is a strategy I do. I need to be better about it. I have a little timer that's there. So if I'm doing strict follow-ups, I'm only doing follow-ups. I'm not checking my text messages. I'm not checking voicemail. I'm not checking email. I'm doing just one thing, because you get a lot better at that and you get a lot of momentum going. I know we have a lot of folks who are working while having kids around and some of these other types of things. So that might be harder to do, but there is a power of not getting interrupted. Statistically speaking, you get interrupted every 3 minutes throughout your day, but it takes 11 minutes to get in the zone. Anybody see a problem with that? You never get in the zone because you're getting interrupted. So if you can have even 30 minutes or an hour or 90 minutes, that's the longest you can go with real intense productivity, and you get that done. That's way better than hours and hours where you're getting interrupted and pushing paper around and doing some of these different things. That was a quick tip for me. Also, that brings me into something else. We all have head trash, and we all believe lies, and we don't even know we believe them, but they're there. And so sometimes the inner hesitancy to make an invite, well, what are they going to think? Am I going to come across as needy? Yeah, they're probably going to think it's too expensive. Some of these other types of things. Internally, a lot of that stuff, social media is just an avenue where you attract people to be on your team. It's just one avenue, but there's multiple. So some of that internal head trash is stuff that I challenge you to work on, because that might be something to hold you back. It might not be a problem with Instagram or Facebook or any one of these other platforms. It might be some of that stuff in between your ears. And that's just a couple things that come readily to mind.
Were you answering a question?
Yeah, it was Ashley.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So when you talked about how money is the last thing that people take into consideration for their, then if they get to that point and they object because of the money, would you say go back and revisit those other points?
Well,
because clearly you didn't do a good job with those other points if you're getting the money objection.
Or maybe we're not attracting somebody that's on our team. So you attract what you attract, you repel what you attract what you are, you repel what you're not.
Yeah.
But a lot of times on the cost objection, so most of the time people don't understand the value. And if they've never tried it before, I mean, you might see a testimonial, you might say, hey, this is how it's worked in my life. But a lot of times that cost objection is actually really a value objection. It's like, I'm going to throw in this story real quick. So I have 3 businesses. One of them, I'm a financial advisor, and I work with business owners and young families on their financial future and planning for that. Well, we have a product on the insurance side, called disability insurance. Now, for years, I've shied away from that. Why? Well, I think I'm young and unbreakable. I'm never going to get disabled. Seriously? So then I don't recommend that to other people. Okay? Now, that for me is something where people say, hey, have you sold? Well, part of that is income protection. If I'm talking to a young 30-something-year-old guy and I'm saying disability, he's going to say, I'm sorry. I'm the young stud who's never going to get broken. So part of that is the language we use. If I get hurt or sick, well, that's in my business, one of my businesses. So the question I'd have for you is, you can't really sell what you haven't already bought yourself. So for example, I mean, on the performance line, I'm one of the biggest advocates of that you'll ever meet in your life. So energize, hydrate, recover, recharge. I'd never tried recharge until a month ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can push myself so much farther, and then I'm not sore the next day. And I'm not a staggering walking zombie with jello legs the next 2 days because I pushed myself in a workout. Well, now I believe in that. You put anybody in front of me and I will talk to you about that, and I'll say, yeah, because I did Spartan races back years ago. I'd say, yeah, I probably would have won some races if I had taken the performance line. Well, I can speak to that because I believe in it. Now, the question I have is, okay, do you have your BOD membership? Are you asking somebody to do something you haven't already done? Chances are, if your kids in your house are drinking the Daily Sunshine or having some Shakeology, chances are people on your team are also doing that, and so on and so forth, or beach bars or whatever. So you can't really bring something to somebody else unless you've already believed in it yourself. And that, a lot of times on the cost objection, it's an underlying belief. It's an underlying value statement. I can't really assign a value to this. But now I see people that say, oh yeah, some of the Beachbody products are too expensive. But then they go and they pay a gym membership at $100 a month or $200 a month or whatever. But you could get Beachbody on demand for $99 a year. That's a value understanding as opposed to a cost understanding. Same idea with, okay, do you want to protect the today or protect the future? So for example, how expensive is cancer? How expensive is it to get heart attack or live with diabetes the rest of your life? That's incredibly expensive. Versus if you can make some changes in your life, you can incorporate some little wins, you can adjust your nutrition accordingly. The cost of that pales in comparison with all the other crap that could potentially hit somebody. My analogy for that is we're a village on the top of a hill with a cliff on one edge. And our kids go over there and they play on the edge of the cliff and they're falling off. And everybody wants to talk about a really high-end ambulance system to pull the bodies from the bottom. You can charge a lot of money for that. That can be a really nice, expensive ambulance. And we can get walks for the ambulance. And we can get, walkathons and jogathons and all this other stuff. We can raise a lot of money for that ambulance at the bottom. But what about putting a fence up at the top? Shakeology, or your daily workouts, or adding some nutrition in your life, that's the fence. Now that might not be as sexy as the ambulance system down at the bottom, but sure as heck is not as expensive. So when you're having a cost objection, it's really a value objection. That's really how I would approach that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, I'll say a couple more things and then I'll wrap it up here. It's impossible to say you believe in something without doing two things. Number one, you make a financial commitment, and secondly, you spend time doing it. So when you look at your calendar and you look at your bank account over a period of time, you actually see what your true beliefs are. And there's a verse in scripture that says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. So where our heart is, our emotions, that's zoomed out to where our treasure is. And I'd like to just take on a couple of myths here. Making money is evil. Working in an entrepreneurship, here's a statistic for you. Out of the 28 million businesses that are in the United States, less than 5% of them ever gross $1 million in sales or greater. So a lot of times we're treating our business, or maybe we're not even in business, maybe we are just employees, but we treat that as just a job. So I challenge you, as I challenge myself, being on that treadmill, trying to run faster and harder and increase the incline. Now I have less time to invest in my family. I have less time to give back to my community. I have less time to spend with my spouse. I have less time to do all these other things. So when you're on that entrepreneurial treadmill, first of all, congratulations. I think it's a good choice, because a question I'd have for you is, do you really want to be writing other people's checks, or do you want to write your own? And for me, I want to write my own. And so now, because I know me, and I know my mission and my vision and my goals and all that good stuff. So from that standpoint, here's another saying: compensation is just a measurement of impact. And I'll say that again: compensation is just a measurement of impact. So in the long game, I'm not talking about people who are in sales and they sell you a car that you didn't need, and they made some money, and then, okay, that's evil, that's wrong, and I'm not okay with that. But I would challenge you all to read this book, The Slight Edge. I realize it's probably backwards. So Jeff Olson, The Slight Edge. In the book, he talks about the 7 major categories that make up who you are. And there's a whole bunch of different good ones. So your financial, your finances, your personal development, your health, your relationships, your spirituality, your impact in the world, etc. It's okay to throw your life out of whack in one thing for a season. So maybe your health isn't on track and you've got to get that back on track. And it's okay for a season to go crazy with that. But now overall, there's balance in your life. So you see people who work out 6 hours a day, but now they don't have quality relationships, or maybe their spirituality is suffering, or different types of things like that. So that myth, making money is evil, I'd like to explode that a little bit, because no, it's just a measurement of impact. And for me, I'm on mission. I've got a vision and goals. I've got some big things. And along the way, there's going to be some really solid compensation that happens as a result of that. But it's not, the money itself is not evil. One other thing that I wanted to address here, some people mentioned about objections. So how do you handle that tough objection? When somebody asks you something and kind of stump you. We've seen this before. Anybody who's on the call who's in a relationship or married, when's the last time you ever argued with your spouse and won? Really won. I'm talking about the long game, not the short game. Maybe you won a fact, but you lost the war. So overcoming objections is like starting that fire analogy we talked about. But I'd like to use a principle of martial arts called Aikido. So Aikido is all based on repositioning your opponent's energy. So if somebody strikes out at you and says, "It's too expensive," or "I don't want this," or whatever the objection is, one thing you can do is agree. I get that. I've heard that before. I understand that. And that lets them off the mat a little bit. That lets them breathe more freely because you agreed. And then you need to establish the fact that you really understand. And then you need to reposition. So a phrase that I always like to use is "what we found," or "our team does it like this." But what we found is something, my language that I like to use. So again, the objection comes in, you reposition it, and now you have agreement. And that's the Aikido principle. When in doubt, don't go head to head with somebody. Don't give a whole bunch of facts. That's that great big armload of wood that you dumped on the spark that killed it. When in doubt, agree with them. Ask good questions. Position yourself to... I always like to position myself around their side of the table, even physically. If I'm in some business owner's office, I want to be sitting on the same side of the table looking at a problem together, instead of I'm on one side and they're on the other side. So I'd like to end with that parable of the 3 employees. So there was 3 employees who worked for a boss, and the boss gave them, here's 5 talents. Here's 5 things you need to work on. And here's 2 talents to the second employee. And here's 1 to the third one. And unfortunately, you know how the story ends, or I hope you do. The one who had 5 multiplied and made 5 more, made some good solid investments, used what they had. The one who had 2 used what they had and made 4. And then the third employee who had the 1 buried it because they didn't want to lose it. So for me, my best advice to business owners and to entrepreneurs growing their business is your number 1 asset, don't bury that. You need to figure out what your 3 MVPs are, most valuable priorities. That's the things that you can do better than almost anybody else on your team. Now, again, keep this in mind when you're working with your downline, when you're working with your team. You might be interviewing a future CFO of your company. You might be interviewing somebody who's going to really position your business. So for me, my 3 MVPs are prospecting and setting new appointments. I want to run meetings, and then I want to grow my team members. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that I do that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm gradually delegating that away. So the quickest way to gain an ROI is work yourself out of a job. If you're busy with that 1 talent, burying it because you're doing all these other things in your business, chances are you're not really pushing forward. So that's my challenge to you is figure out your mission, your vision, your goals, and then as quick as possible, work yourself out of a job because you're working on those big things to really move forward. That's kind of where I'd like to end today.
I like it. Hey, Sarah, can you say what you were talking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I was only speaking to the diabetic statement because I am a type 1 diabetic, so no amount of healthy eating or working out will get rid of that.
Obviously.
Type 2, yes, but I guess it's a sore statement for me, and a common joke or statement, if you will, by people who don't suffer from it or are around it, and oh, don't eat that cupcake, you'll get diabetes. Like, it's not funny, like, so it hit a little raw spot for me. Some people can't work out their way out of such a disease, I'm hooked up to a machine all day, every day because of it, and nothing I do is going to get rid of it, That was it.
I appreciate that, Sarah, and I don't.
It was nothing against you. It wasn't combative or,
I hope I didn't I don't hope I didn't overstep my bounds, but I appreciate you.
No,
and I know
not
that.
at all.
That's not what he meant at all.
Yeah, but thank you.
It does improve the quality of our diabetics' lives. It has with my family, and I think that for other diabetics, and I think I have a family, so I know it is that common misconception, like Sarah was saying, like for my 8, almost 9-year-old, it's completely, they said she's a healthy diabetic. It's just was in the genes. There was no getting away from it.
Yeah.
Bound to happen with one of my kids. But if you really look at it with the statistics out there, look at this child and our children, the juvenile diabetes rate is going and skyrocketing, not just from the crap that they eat, but also because, I'm sorry, the technology and the video games and everything, they aren't as active. They aren't, think about us being, when I was a kid, I didn't have half of that stuff, even half of the processed food as we
Oh,
have
yeah.
now. But I definitely have found that both my husband that's diabetic and my 9-year-old, they both drink the shakes and they notice a huge difference. But being diabetics, it's just, if we can prevent more from getting there, great. You know, if we can improve the quality of life of the ones we've got, that's our goal. So
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the point you made, Jen, is what's exciting about what we do in the wellness world that we get to work in is that whether you're talking about something like type 1 diabetes or even mental health issues like Lauren mentioned, where you're dealing with depression or something else, there's nothing that we do that maybe can alleviate or eliminate those, but they can always make them better. So like working out is great for mental health. That's endorphins. It might not make someone who's on an antidepressant come off their antidepressant, but they're certainly going to feel better for the day. I know that was true of me when I was taking that. So I think that's one thing to like take away from the call. You can't cure everything, but there's nothing that we do that doesn't make some things a little bit better, even if it's just on an emotional level, and that's it.
And hey,
Yes.
if the only thing you get out of your workouts is you get a chance to have 30 minutes alone with your spouse working out together, and that's it, hey, we just built our relationship, or you know, we stayed closer together. So.
Yeah. Hey, Peter, can you, so you've built a really successful 6-figure business, more than one, but back when you were waiting tables at Olive Garden or working for straight commission and things were tight, like, what did you remind yourself? Because obviously there was a 14-year gap between when you started and now. So how did you keep yourself going when you felt like, you know, your work output wasn't matching the bank input just yet?
Ashley, that's a hard question. That is a very hard question. But for me, the biggest thing that I needed to, one of the biggest things for me was stopping and starting is not going to serve anybody. Because you think about it, there's a certain amount of energy you have going a certain direction. Now, if you stop that energy and now you redirect that into going somewhere else, and then you redirect that and go somewhere else. Unfortunately, a lot of times we're just in the practice of starting and stopping a lot. So I think about that verse, what your hand finds to do it with your might. We could spend years trying to figure out what the best product is or the best, you know, solution is for X. But more often than not, people buy into you. And so if you can do that well and excel at it, that's critical. Also, how did I stay going? How did I keep the consistency and the momentum going? I think a lot of times it went back to a couple of the things I already mentioned, which for me was really understanding how I built my team. There are no quantum leaps. It's one conversation. It's one meeting. In the last 3 or 4 years, I've really solidified what are my 3 big meetings this week. And those are the big ones. Somebody could buy into my mission, my vision, my goals, and that might catapult my business forwards. So if you can focus on those big ones, those big meetings, some of the other ones will naturally rearrange themselves. I think a lot of times when we focus, when we get in the weed, I got to do this and I got to do this and I got to do this and run around here and there and here and there. You're basically just an employee, but now you're a slave to your own business. You created a monster and now you're kind of stuck on the tail end of the monster. Versus if you really know what, this is what moves my business forward and these are the things I need to focus on, and focus on those and do those very, very well. And then that's where things kind of naturally rearrange themselves. And so the rest of it becomes a lot more straightforward. I would also say, real quick, practicing what you preach. So like in my business, when I was asking somebody to do something and I didn't do it myself, that wasn't quite adding up. A couple of years ago, I made some choices in my life. I said, you know what, we're going to do this. Next thing you know, a bunch of clients that I talked to bought into that very same thing. And one client a few months ago, it was my largest client I've ever brought on board. And that was the one very thing that I hadn't done myself. But 18 months later, this one client bought into that. And it was a very huge, monumentally life-changing aspect of my business, catapulted us forward. But it started 18 months before that when I believed in it myself.
And Dina wants to know how you would respond to it's a pyramid scheme.
Oh boy.
He did have that down.
I had it down and I didn't put it in the notes. I ran out of time.
Oh. Go ahead. Totally.
Here we go. I'm going to go back to because I had some good language. I want to find that. So I want you to Emily, I'm sorry. I'm going to pick on Nike for a moment. So way up at the top of Nike, we have the CEO. And then there's a few CFOs. What is that? Phil Knight? No, or is that somebody else? Anyways, so you got the CEO. You've got a CFO, a CTO.
It is Phil Knight, just so you know.
Yep.
You're good.
A VP of this, a VP of that, a VP of something else. Now you've got a regional, district. You've got a store manager, then you've got employees. What does that look like? A pyramid. Now,
do it.
On cue. That's the actual real pyramids in our lives, people. Because out of the 28 million businesses that there are in the United States, less than 5% ever gross $1 million in sales. And out of that 5%, that's gross a year. And then out of that 5%, there's only a percentage that really, if there's a 50,000 employee company, most of those employees are never going to get the chance to be the boss. Most of those people are assigned a value. This is what you are worth. And it's an external motivator. You are worth $20 an hour plus benefits. Now, that's a grand Ponzi scheme in my estimation. This is just go with it. We're going to arbitrarily make you work for a certain value that we've assigned. And either, there's downsizing, so we lay people off. Or there's this or there's that or the other thing. So anybody ever heard the phrase, once you figure out how to make ends meet, they move the ends? That's why a lot of people are living paycheck to paycheck. They are going from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so it's kind of this slow roasting fire. And once you're tired and you're sick of it and you're done, we call that retirement. That's not a dream. That's not a vision I want to be on. I don't want that. I want to start something else. So how I would respond to that is, first of all, a lot of these mega corporations, they're not evil, but they're the true pyramid scheme. Because we'll never get a chance to be up on that ladder. We'll always be assigned a value and a worth, and we can't actually build our own team. This opportunity that we have working with Beachbody products allow you to, again, build your team. There is a product involved, but now you have compensation. You bring in another couple of team members. We'll call that the CFO and the VP of sales. And we bring in a few more team members and a few more team members. But you get to build your income. It's not capped. You get team bonuses. You're not capped because you can make more money than the person who brought you on. Your team can far exceed what they do, etc. So when somebody says pyramid scheme, Ponzi scheme, oh yeah, MLM, something or other, chances are they might have had a bad experience, or they might just be regurgitating information that somebody else already said. I would start asking good questions. I would say, tell me more. Why do you think that? Or what influences you to say that? Again, starting that fire, because sometimes an objection is actually an opportunity for a sale. So when they talk about a Ponzi scheme or an MLM or pyramid scheme or whatever, yes, tell me more, and ask good questions.
No.
I'm not saying yes, we're a Ponzi scheme. I'm saying yes, tell me more. What's your experience? How do you think that? And then I would honestly have some template verbiage that you copy paste, because this is probably not the first time you'll have that question, where you say, hey, have you considered, or have you thought about this? And then end with what we found is, working with Beachbody products, we're actually able to build our own team. Our income isn't capped. We do get some overrides as a team by how big we build our team, but anybody can start their own business. It's a fantastic opportunity that anybody would jump at. I just hope you'd be on my team. And bring it back to the we. It's a long answer, I apologize, but that's kind of the backstory, and that's how I would approach it.
Dina, I usually ask them back, what is a pyramid scheme? Like, what do you think is a pyramid scheme? I usually ask them because people don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been asking them too, so at least I'm going in the right direction.
Well, and I like the concept of, I don't remember who the CEO's name was that you mentioned from the mega corporation, but if you think about Beachbody and how many 15-star diamond coaches there are, I mean, that's how many CEOs there are of this company, really. You could say Beachbody develops multiple CEOs compared to just one person at the top. So that's a really simple way to phrase it, and I like that analogy, Peter.
Yeah, and you can grow to be a CEO, and it's not capped.
You are the CEO.
You are the CEO, but maybe you're just treating it like an employee. Maybe you left your employee job and you're treating this one as an employee. So that's a challenge I'd have, is figure out that mission. And again, maybe that is a role that, I mean, not everybody wants to build a huge team. I personally do. And I don't want somebody else assigning a value to my hourly rate, whether I'm making $50 an hour, $15 an hour, or $500 an hour, or more than that. I want to be able to have the throttle and my foot on the gas. And if I have to pull back because we have to hang out as a family, now the momentum that we built, aka residual income, continues even after I took the pressure off the throttle, which is a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably wrap up.
We're a little over on time. I apologize.
Oh, yeah. Did anyone hop on this for the new coach call? They're just hanging? Okay, cool. Thank you so much, Peter. If you guys think of any other questions that you want to know from Peter, can they post them in the team page, and Joy can maybe have you follow up for a sequel sometime?
Have a good night. Thanks again.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, we need to get a boomerang before everybody hops off.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Let me turn my lights back on. Hold on.
Yeah. We want to
Also, is anyone on for the new coach call? Or were you using a different link, Joy?
I didn't put a link in there.
Oh, okay.
Did you put one?
Well, no, I didn't. But I also don't have anyone hopping on. I wasn't sure if you did.
I'll go post in there and see. Are you doing boomerang or am I?
Oh, I can do it. Okay, what do you guys want to do for boomerang? Jazz hands. Oh, Dana says peace. Oh, I like that. Let's do that. Let's do 2 bunnies. Okay, ready, everyone? 1, 2, 3. Okay, I will save that and post it in the team page so that you can use it however you wish. Yeah, I didn't post the link over there as well. I kind of just thought,
And I
don't know, I thought it was already there.
You know what's so funny? I half of the things as he was given different ideas, it made me think about almost all of the objections I've been getting from people. And the ones I've been getting for the last 2 days, I kid you not, are I'm sorry, I can't do shakes. So I spent an hour finding my favorite recipes and compiling them of sorts so I know where to get them. And so now the first one that said this to me that is now a little bit more interested and didn't just drop off is because I said, really? I said, see, I love shakes. I said, but I totally get that. There's a lot of people I know that don't. And I said, so what kind of stuff do you like? Do you like more like snack bars, like granola bars, or do you like things like muffins or pancakes? And I said, what kind of stuff is your favorite to munch on? And then they tell me, and then I said, because I have the best recipes for that. And now they're like, oh. And I said, yeah, because the great thing, it's not just a protein powder, it's the superfood powder. And so it's so universal. I said, yeah, it's definitely worth trying. And all of a sudden, that totally changed that conversation. I just had to share because that happens a lot.
I love that. That's smart. You need to rewrite our handling objections template because you handle them like a boss.
Whatever. The funny thing is, I don't know how to handle them sometimes when I'm in them. It takes them hitting me in the head a couple times, and I'm like, freaking heck no. And then I dive back at it, and then I'm like, oh, now that's the switching plate. But
you've had so many great responses. I feel like you need the what does Jen say objection version.
Don't. The thing I keep telling Joy, I'm laughing at the most is seeing in the team feed and on people's stories and everything going, if this mom of 7 can do it, then so can you. And I'm like, you guys are like making me go, okay, well, I definitely have to show up and can't screw up. I'm just kidding.
We're peer pressuring you into performing.
No, I love it. But the funniest thing is not just in our team, but I have heard this so much in the last 2 weeks. But I have several people ask me even through Instagram. So you have 7 kids. So are they all biologically yours?
That's interesting. What a weird question to ask.
Sister, well, they asked me that because they said I don't look old enough to have them because my daughter.
My parents got that a lot because they had they had 4 kids by the time my dad was 24, and so and so every time I'm out with my parents, they're always just like, or just other people, they're just like, your parents are so young, and I'm like, yeah.
Well, my daughter, we go shopping, and we were at Costco just barely, and we had just my 5-year-old and my 3-year-old, and sitting in the cart, and she was there this last month, and 2 guys were standing there behind us, and he goes, oh, they're so cute at this age. He goes,